So it's February 1998. But before we get into the show, just want to send a R.I.P. and condolences to the family of Irv Gotti. We lost him today. He was 54. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Tape Deck Selects. I am your host, Lord Puba, and we're going to get into some albums from February of 1998 that I felt were pretty pivotal or just flat out dope for the time being. But like I said, before we get into the show, I want to give a big RIP and send condolences to the family and friends of Irv Gotti. We lost him today. He was 54 years old. Wasn't for Irv, probably wouldn't have got such a push out of people like DMX. Would have never heard of, Murder Inc. Probably would have never got a shot at Ashanti, Mike Geronimo, so many things, so many classics. He was definitely somebody who was respected in our age of rap as far as coming up as millennials. So definitely send an RIP shout out to him. Condolences to his family and friends. But moving on. Got a couple joints here for you today. Starting from the bottom, first and foremost, I got my notes because I remember a whole lot of stuff, but I gotta make sure that I'm spitting it to you the right way. So going on first, we got the Beatnuts with The Spot. So now the Beatnuts have been around since the earlier 90s, and when they gave us The Spot, this was more like a remix EP. They didn't give us too much with this. EPs are short anyway. For all those who don't know, EPs are short. EPs are only a couple of tracks. And this is a remix EP, so these are songs that they kind of redid. Either it was a new beat or it was new lyrics from earlier pieces that they did, like Street Level, Intoxicated Demons, and oh my God, what's the name of the other one? The Street Level, Intoxicated Demons, and Stone Crazy, right? So we have those albums that they kind of remixed and put on to this joint right here. Now, it was released on February 10th, 1998, right? This is like the first off of this list that I'm going to get into. February 10th, 1998. Features, we had the No Gooders, we had Raw Codics, AL, and we also had Grand Puba on one of those tracks. Solid New York sounding album. Again, these guys cultivated what the New York sound was supposed to be as far as like the 90s beat-wise. The whole album was produced by them, Psycho Les and Juju. If I didn't mention that already, the Beatnuts is Psycho Les and Juju. And they produced that whole album. Respected in the rap scene, kind of like one of the first super dope, I shouldn't even say the first, because there's a lot of Puerto Ricans in rap, a lot of Spanish people in rap, period, and I don't want to just limit it to like them, like they started it or anything like that, but as far as like being in that scene, like that super hardcore, it's like, the 90s hip-hop got a certain kind of grunge to it, and they were up there. They were notable names. People messed with them. People got them on production. They had features and stuff like that. They were respected. The Beatnuts are respected. And when they gave us this EP, I think they just mastered tracks that were off of previous albums, like I said earlier. And they got, I don't know how to describe it, but they got a specific sound to them. And that sound is kind of carried all throughout this time frame in hip hop. So moving on, again, like I said, I gave you the features already, told you who the producers were. I'm gonna roll into my favorite tracks off this album, this EP, this project. And quite frankly, I like everything on this EP with the exception of the Off the Books remix. Did not like that beat. Absolutely hated that beat. The lyrics were the lyrics. Pun was on that joint. You know what I'm saying? R.I.P. Big Pun. He was on that joint. So you're always gonna get a sense of, I don't even know what you want to call it, but whatever that sense is, you're gonna get that with that song Off the Books, because the original was super dope. That was one of those songs that you could, if you was to go back and say, name me some known, unknown dope tracks from 1998, that'd be one of them. You know what I mean? Pun killed it, Beatnuts killed it, dope video. But that remix, like I said, the lyrics was the same, but that beat, I'm so glad they didn't move forward with that beat. So that was the Beatnuts, the Spot EP that came out February 10th, 1998. Let's get into the next one. All right, so moving into the next couple albums that I got here for you guys, we got Silkk the Shocker, Charge It to the Game. Now, I know on the last show, I told you guys that No Limit had the game in the chokehold coming up in like 1998 and everything like that. And this album was not any less than a powerhouse around the time. Silkk the Shocker, No Limit family. Let's just get right into it. It was released February 17th, 1998. You know, so this is a couple of days after the Beatnuts joints. About a week, exactly a week. The features, and when I say this, is like the No Limit roster. Like the No Limit roster included everybody who was on the roster at the time, which was a lot. So you had Mystical, C Murder, Master P, Mia X, Skullduggery, Fiend, Cain and Abel, Mac, so many people, but they were all kind of sprinkled across the albums. Again, who sounds best on said track. But the people who you may not have known was on this album are going to include, let me see, in my research, Destiny's Child was on that album. They was on the track Just Be Straight With Me, which is one of the first singles that was released off that album. I really didn't even know that. That's fire though. Destiny's Child, do your homework. Beyonce, the other two, you know. Snoop Dogg was on that album. I believe he was on the second or third track. I think it's called Throw Your Setup. Fire song. And this is like the first time we heard Snoop in quite some time. Like I want to say this is like the first time we heard Snoop since the Dogfather album had came out. He'd been gone. Also, this is like his introduction or his initiation track. As we all know, the Snoop Dogg signed to No Limit around this time. This is 1998, 1999. Snoop Dogg signed to No Limit around this time. So this is kind of like the first track that we heard him perform on since like the Dogfather, you know. So we had him, and we also had 8 Ball. For those who don't know, 8 Ball and MJG, Tennessee Legends. He sprinkled some fire on this album as well too. Skipping on from that, let's just get into my favorite tracks. No Limit had a thing, like I always say, where their first track, the first song off the album is always fire. Didn't skip a beat with this one. I'm a Soldier, had the whole No Limit roster on that. That was one of my favorite tracks off this album. Check it out if you get a chance. Throw Your Hood Up, that was the joint that featured Snoop Dogg. I didn't really listen to it that much when I was a kid, but that was definitely a fire track going back and listening to it. And you're gonna hear me say that a lot too, or do that a lot. It's gonna be tracks that I had to revisit and say, hey, this is actually pretty fire. Because when it first came out, I was not a big fan of every single song off of some of these albums that I'm reviewing, but Throw Your Hood Up was definitely a dope track, and it features Snoop Dogg. Again, check that out. Just Be Straight With Me, lead single. Funky sample, Destiny's Child singing on that. I believe it was Moby Dick as well, Master P, ad-libbing the hooks, everything. I like that song. A lot of people didn't care for that song back then, but I thought it had a crazy video. Not a crazy video, but it was like a really reminiscent old school 80s style type video. Get a chance, YouTube it, check that out. Song was fire though. Definitely one of the main tracks off this album. It Ain't My Fault. If you don't know what It Ain't My Fault is, and I'm talking to millennials, I ain't talking about to the new generation, but the new generation, check that song out. It's definitely dope. Him and Mystical going back and forth. I remember the video, they was like getting the electric chair or something, and they couldn't quite get rid of him, and they rapping in the electric chair, and the warden is like, increase the voltage and all of this stuff, and they just going off, and that was fire. But the song was dope too. I'm waiting for somebody to like take that song and remake it just to see what they do with it, since that's what the new guys are doing nowadays. So It Ain't My Fault, definitely one of the dope tracks off of Charge It to the Game. This might be what you call it when it's like an insider. This is like an insider favorite track, and it's a track called Let Me Hit It. And it was Silkk the Shocker and Mystical. It's a pretty nasty song, but if you can understand what Silkk is saying, because Silkk was really good for like, he might be the godfather of mumble rap, honestly, but if you could figure out what Silkk's saying, offbeat, on beat, it was smooth though. It was smooth. It matched the beat. And Mystical always came with that energy, with that fire, killed it. Now that I really think about it, Silkk the Shocker and Mystical were probably like, you could put them up there with like Method Man and Redman, Raekwon and Ghostface, like just those duos that just worked. Like Silkk the Shocker and Mystical worked, that's for sure. So yeah, but those are my favorite tracks that I just recapped to y'all. And let me get into the producers, because I don't think I did the producers. And it was kind of like a No Limit in-house thing. You had Beats by the Pound, asterisk, I did not know that they go by the Medicine Men now. So for all those who don't know, Beats by the Pound are now considered the Medicine Men. So check that out. I'm actually going to do some research and see what the Medicine Men have done since these No Limit days. Craig B, Moby Dick, Odell, Carlos Stevens, Medicine Men, Beats by the Pound, and of course, the main No Limit hitter when it came to the beats, KLC. Those are the guys that made the fire that was produced on Silkk the Shocker's Charge It to the Game. Let's get into the next and final one. I'll be right back. So this last one is going to go to the West Coast, and this comes from a group called Above the Law. Now, let me give you guys a little bit of a history lesson with Above the Law, because they've been out for a long time. I want to say since like 88 or 89, something like that. Granted, even my generation, unless you was on the West Coast, that's why I'll be waiting for like everybody to just chime in and give me like their side of the story when it comes to some of these albums that I'm reviewing, because, you know, we had West Coast songs, of course, that came out. We had West Coast artists that we knew of back then, you know, give or take DJ Quick, your NWAs, your Ice Cubes, your Dr. Dre's, and stuff like that. When it came down to like real live, like the cats that was from the soil out there, we didn't get a whole lot of it, but Above the Law was definitely one of those groups that you've heard of. Easiest transition for those who ain't from the area. We had GTA, right? San Andreas, when that came out. And you listen to like the old school rap stations, the one that had like Julio G. They played a lot of Above the Law. Case in point, Murder Rap. They had that song on there. Even before then, my first introduction to Above the Law was probably Black Superman. I think that came out in like 1994. Murder Rap was definitely 1990. And I didn't know who these guys were at the time, but they were also on the track called We're All in the Same Gang. And I believe that was either 89 or 1990, one of the two. But that's Above the Law. Legendary West Coast hip hop group. Had more albums in between, but 1998, they dropped their album Legends. That was released February 24th, 1998. Didn't have a whole lot of features, but they had enough to make the album sound so West Coast. Like, it's a very, very West Coast album. You're from the East Coast, you're from down south, or wherever, and you're looking for a solid West Coast sound, you can go here. You can go to Above the Law Legends, because that's all this album is. You can hear a lot of influence from this into a lot of newer West Coast artists too. Again, features Yuck Mouth, J.O. Felony, a couple of other guys. Let me make sure I'm not tripping. Ha Ha Loke, Young Tin, Mad Harv Dog, Big Rock, guys like that. And it was producers as well, like Code 87 I'm sorry, let me back that up. Code 187 am I saying that right? Code 187 I think it's like that. DJ Chaos, KMG, you know, were some of the producers on the track. And these guys are pretty much the group. Let me just run down the group for you for those who don't know. The members are Code 187 Cocaine, Laylo, KMG, Go Mac, and DJ Total Chaos. That's Above the Law. I gave you the notable tracks. I gave you the members. I gave you the producers, which is basically them, you know, completely produced by Above the Law. Getting into my favorite tracks off of this album, though. XO With Me featuring J.O. Felony. That track was fire. Then we had Set Trippin'. I like that beat. I like that song. Be About Your Business. That was another good one that I found myself vibing to at the time. Soliciting, probably one of my favorite tracks off that album. The beat, the flow, the hook, everything was like so West Coast, and they got so swayzy, so funky with it. Like, you can't help but to love that track. You know, if you ever get an opportunity, if I got to put an asterisk on any one of these songs, it'd probably be that one, just because it's so swayzy, you know. And last but not least was The Streets. Now, these are just my picks. This album was dope. It was a solidified West Coast album. And if you get an opportunity to check it out, please do, because you will not be disappointed. But that was that. We're going to wrap it all up in a second. I'll be right back. And you guys let me know how you feel about this, okay? Okay. There you have it. 3 albums, February 1998. Silkk the Shocker, Charge It to the Game. Beatnuts, The Spot. Above the Law, Legends. Out of those 3 albums, which ones was your favorite? Which albums am I missing from this month in 1998 that you would like for me to cover? Which one of these was your favorite tracks? Holla at your boy. Like, follow, subscribe, share, all of that good stuff. Once again, sending condolences to the family of Irv Gotti, who passed away today, R.I.P. Stay tuned for the next time. We're going to be in March 1998. Can you guess what I'm going to pick up next? See you next time, all right, y'all? Peace.